like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners Workshop Meeting for December 6, 2017. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
I know that we are going to have an event tonight with the Montgomery County Senior Softball League, and I would ask that Bud Hyman, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. There's two of you from the Senior League, and I know that you came out last year too, and we wanted to recognize you early. Thank you for coming out as a part of the presentation that we're going to have in a few minutes. All right, before we get to that, is there a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of moving forward with tonight's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, and hearing no objection, we can move forward with the agenda. Citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments on agenda items? All right, I don't see any citizens' comments on agenda items. We're going to move on to consent items. Is there a motion to enter into the record the consent items listed in your agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Hughes, second by Commissioner Rogers. Those items are the engineer's report for the month of November, the police report for the month of November, the HTMA monthly budget report for October, the HTMA meeting minutes for October 10, the Shade Tree EAC minutes for October 16, and the Pool Advisory Board meeting minutes of October 10, and the Park and Rec Board meeting minutes of October 2. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, those are moved into the record. Special items. All right, our first item is, as I mentioned before, the Montgomery County Senior Softball League. They have a donation to the Hatfield Police Department. If you would be kind enough to come up to the podium, gentlemen. Chief, I think you and I are going to meet them down.
Hi, Chief. This is the third time we've been able to do this. I'm really pleased to do it. This will be for the Officer William J. Chapman Memorial Scholarship Foundation. The people that have been here, I'm really impressed with those students who get those scholarships. It's very nice. This weekend that we had it, there was the charity night, the Chapman, Friday night, we had that big celebration. The next morning, we had the Philadelphia Ball Girls from the Phillies to play, and then Monday, we had our one-pitch tournament for this event. So we were very busy that weekend, and I was involved in trying to collect money. So what we like to do, we get new people in, and in March we have a big meeting, and these people, the new players, we tell them that we have just started this 3 years ago, and we do have a charity. So we will get up and we do shove it to the new folks. Excuse me, my voice here. So with that being, we have a check. This is Stan Schwartz, who is our treasurer.
Sorry. I did.
At the last event for Hatfield, I challenged the chief to a game. He said, "I will beat you guys." Look at that. That one policeman over there is a former quarterback
Quarterback for Norristown.
For Norristown. I said, "Okay."
So, you know what, I didn't realize it was the third year.
This is the third year.
And so not only do we want to thank you, but each year I ask you if you could give us a little description. It's a senior softball league, and what are the age groups that we're talking about?
It was originally 60 plus, and now we actually started another portion that we have a red, white, and blue league. Red is a very tight, very skilled players. Good skilled players, yeah. And then we have the white league, which is it's a little milder. regular players. And then we have the Blue League, 70 plus. Us old guys. We had a guy this year, 90 years old. He made the newspapers, Angela, 90, and he's still hitting. It's amazing. Yeah, and we have another one coming up to be 90 next year.
So 90 years old, he's playing softball.
Yes.
As a part of the senior league.
Yep.
He's better player than Chief is. Chief got cut from that blue team, as I understand it. I mean, not to bring up a bad point, but I think that's what happened. Our condolences, Chief. And so not only is it fantastic that you do this, that you organize this for the entire community, for anyone who's willing and interested in playing, but then
Yes,
this organization every year since its inception has come back and given money to the police as a donation for just of goodwill. And there's no better organization. I mean, it's community oriented than to give back as well. I mean, you really should have you have a lot to be proud of. I love your jackets, by the way. If you want to turn around for a second, but it is the Montgomery County Senior Softball League. And it's got the old-style baseball player on, or softball player on the.
And we changed our hats to the old-style hats.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, we did. And Hatfield has been very good to us. They have been very good. A lot of people that come from other townships to play, they love it here.
And if you didn't hear, it was a $1,000 donation that they gave to us, to the police force, which is fantastic. Well, Bud, thank you.
Okay.
Really.
Right.
Bud and Stan, again, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We will see you back here next year. All right, have a great winter, and then you'll be warming up for the season in the spring. That's great. We will let them know. That's our public works guys. They do a great job. Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Have a great holiday. Okay, moving on to our agenda. Next is our committee reports. First is Planning and Zoning Committee. Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you. The first item is Royal Farms with the liquor license transfer.
What I have for you tonight is a proposed resolution which would approve the liquor license transfer to the Royal Farms on 309. It contains the conditions that were discussed at the hearing, so it's appropriate for you to vote on that.
Okay. Before I entertain a motion, are there any residents who have any input prior to us having our own discussion and then ultimately a vote? All right, seeing no one, then I'll ask if there's a motion for approval of Resolution 17-21, granting the liquor license transfer for Royal Farms. Is there such a motion? Motion by Commissioner Andrews. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. All right. We held the hearing, it was last meeting, right?
Yes.
And there were a number of preconditions that we added to this liquor license. It seems as though the residents who were there was no objection. And since then, I've heard of no objection, and it seems like it's a reasonable resolution to move forward on. Is there any other comments or questions?
Brought up or addressed in that agreement?
Yes.
There was restrictions on mixed drinks, and there was also signage. I know we recall that there was an issue with a very specific signage that they needed to have at the location, and there was some other general limitations that they had already imposed upon themselves.
relative to what could be consumed on the property.
Right.
Employees, how much beer, how much wine, things like that, and that they comply with all the testimony and exhibits presented at the hearing, and comply with all the state and federal rules regarding alcohol sales. As was probably explained to you, absent any evidence at the hearing that this would be adverse to the public health, safety, and welfare, it's your obligation to approve this transfer.
And they spent a fair amount of time explaining how serving and also the sale of any alcohol would be done consistent with state and federal law.
That's one of the conditions, yep.
All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 17-21, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Next is, stepping on your toes a little bit, Bob, but is there a motion for Resolution 17-19 with regard to Royal Farms' 18-month maintenance period?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Aaron, I think this is a housekeeping item.
And sure, Mr. President, I just want to point out too that the version of the agenda that we have projected did
Oh.
not have, it was a late addition, and this version, it does not, so if anybody's looking at that, you'll see that it's clearly not on the agenda, and I'll explain it as I'm talking. This was simply, and we've done a few of these in the past 6 months, this is beginning the 18-month maintenance period for the public improvements associated with that Royal Farms. We have the recommendation from our township engineer, so those improvements will now, the clock will begin, so they must have to maintain all of that infrastructure for the next 18 months, or they'll be obligated to repair or replace as seen fit by the township engineer. So we did this for a few other land developments recently, and Royal Farms has met all of the requirements to get to this point. So we can approve that tonight if the board would consider that, and we'll begin the clock on those improvements.
All right, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 17-19, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Bob, any other planning and zoning
That's
items?
it for tonight.
Public Works Committee, Vice President Hughes.
All I have is we're winding down from the summer and preparing for the pending winter with the facilities and the equipment, ready for the snow that we hope we don't get.
That's right. That's good. Keep saying that. All right, Park and Recreation Committee, Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, President Zipfel. Okay, Hatfield Township has a giving tree. You can see it out there in our lobby. It features nature-themed ornaments and was decorated by our EAC and shade tree boards. Each ornament lists a gender and age range, and visitors can take an ornament off the tree to purchase a gift for a child. Those gifts should be returned to the Township Administration Building, new and unwrapped. Gifts will be donated to needy children and families throughout the North Penn School District and local Hatfield area. Please bring all your gifts to the Township Building by Friday, December 15th. Santa's Visit. Parks and Recreation is working with Township Police Benevolent Association to bring a little bit of the North Pole to Hatfield. So Santa's Workshop is going to be here on Saturday, December 9th. Santa arrives at 11 a.m. on a fire truck. So bring your letters to Santa, wear your best smile for a photo opportunity. And that runs from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday, December 9th. Bus trips. We've got a couple bus trips coming up. Wicked on Broadway, Saturday, February 17th. That's in New York City. It's $149 per person. It's a rear mezzanine seating. Includes the bus transportation and the show ticket. We've got School of Rock, also on Saturday, February 17th, also in New York City. And also $149 per person. That is orchestra seating. Also includes bus transportation and the show ticket. You can register for that at hatfieldrec.com. Our Get Fit series continues this winter. We've got the Wake Up Call Mondays and Wednesdays, 6 a.m. to 6:45, running from January 22nd through February 28th. There will be no class that's February 19th. It takes place in the community room here of the Township Building. Its residents are $55 and non-residents are $70. We also have the after-work hustle if mornings aren't your thing. And that runs from 6:15 p.m. to 7 p.m. Also runs from 1/22 through, that goes through March 1st. There's no class on the 19th of February. Also here in the community room, residents are 55, non-residents 70. We're doing yoga on Thursdays from 7 p.m. to 7:45, starting January 25th through March 1st. Here in the community room, residents are $30, non-residents are $45. And Zumba on Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., starting January 23rd and running through February 27th. There is a free trial class on January 16th for that. So if you want to come try it out, you can. And that's in the community room. Residents are $30, non-residents $45. You can register for all of those fitness classes at hatfieldrec.com. Hatfield's partnering with XL Sports to offer indoor pickleball. So our next session runs, it's actually in session right now, and it runs through January 26th. It's Mondays and Fridays, 9 a.m. to 11:30, Wednesdays, 1 to 3. And again, that's at XL Sports over in the industrial park. It's $10 for a resident, $15 for a non-resident, and you can register for that at hatfieldrec.com. Continue to have discount ski tickets for area ski resorts, and you can purchase the tickets here at the administration building during normal business hours. And you can look for a list of the ski resorts at hatfield.org. And lastly, we have our Fire and Ice Festival coming up. It's on January 20th, 2018. It's going to be at the Aquatic Center again. It's going to run from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. They changed the hours this time. Registration forms are now available online or at the administration building for your Polar Plunge event. So if anybody wants to dip in, did you register? Anybody?
Yeah, we have a commissioner volunteer already, which is
I'll
great.
certainly challenge any commissioner who would like to.
Oh, no, you know what, you're such a strong challenger, there'd be no
win.
reason. You win.
Well, you can register individually or as a team to jump into the icy waters of our Aquatic Center lap pool. Participants can also dress in costumes for a chance to win our first annual Polar Plunge costume contest. However, if cold water is not your thing, you can register to participate in our chili or soup cook-off. Registration is now available online or at the Township Administration Building. Spaces are limited for that. Other activities will include music, ice sculptures, winter-themed games, s'mores, cider, and more. So we hope that you'll come out and join us for that.
Great.
Thank you.
Busy couple of weeks. Good luck.
Allow winter to slow us down.
That's right. Good luck, Commissioner Rogers, with the plunge. The
And
polar
Chief Tierney.
plunge. We wish you the best.
I'm thinking of who I'll dress up like.
Mr. President, I think I saw the police chief volunteer to do the ceremony as you were talking.
Bump duct tape to you.
I'll think about that.
All right, before this totally spirals out of control.
Seen that image.
No, not at all. Public Safety Committee, we have one item on that agenda, firefighter tax relief. It's a resolution establishing that process. Aaron, I think you're going to walk us through that.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. President. As the board knows, as the public knows, the commissioners have supported for quite some time now the ordinance to provide tax relief for our volunteer firefighters. Within that legislation is a requirement to have a resolution just outlining the process on how this is going to take place. We only have to do this once. It's going to be an annual process. A meeting Friday with the presidents of both fire companies just to make sure that the process makes sense for them, makes sense for our finance department. Once we hammer out those details in 2 weeks, I'll come back with a draft resolution that the board can consider, and then we will move forward in January with the relief that the board approved for our volunteer firefighters.
I know this is a technical question that may or may not have the answer to off the top of your head. If we pass it in January, can they use it for 2017?
We can. We should have the resolution prepared and ready to be approved in 2 weeks in December, but for whatever reason, if there is some amendments needed, we absolutely can. The ordinance was what permitted the town to provide the relief.
That's right.
So the resolution is simply a housekeeping item that was required just to establish the process, but the meat of this has already been completed. This is just something we're abiding by to move forward.
Okay, great. Nothing else for Public Safety, Finance Committee, Commissioner Andrus.
Yes, there are two items. 2018 budget was presented at the last meeting. The budget will continue to provide services at the level we've provided for the last several years. This is the fourth straight year without raising taxes, so it's an early Christmas present, provided we all vote affirmative to approve that 20th. So please come out and provide your input. Second item is the Pool Advisory Board is recommending an increase of only 5% for the Aquatic Center season pass for 2018. There are no other increases to the other fees associated with the swimming pool. The fees for Hatfield Township residents, as recall, were reduced dramatically in 2014, and this is only a marginal increase above that. The fee adjustment will be considered in the budget meeting on the 20th.
All right. We're going to move on to the Township Manager's Report. Aaron?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one item on the agenda, then just one additional item that has come up since. First one is the reorganization. This is just, obviously the meeting will be advertised as well, but this is in addition, another public notice for our January 2nd reorganization meeting at 7:30 p.m. in this room, where the President Ziffa will be sworn in, and Commissioner Bob Rogers, as well as Tina Murphy, the tax collector, the three positions that won the recent election. We will have a reorganization meeting that night on January 2nd, which the board will also appoint all of the other volunteer board members, which we talked about during the budget process. The only other item, Commissioners, just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that the applicant for the Walters Farm has reached out and has requested to come back in 2 weeks if the board is okay with that, just to get some feedback on its rezoning application. It's been quite some time since we have discussed it, and they've requested to be on an agenda so they could get some feedback from the commissioners and staff.
Right, our understanding is that they requested feedback, not only, like you said, from us and maybe what we've heard from residents as we've announced, that we said that we would listen and entertain comments from residents, and they're asking us to articulate what that feedback is, not only from us, but from what we've heard. So while it will not be a decision-making night, it will be a night for a conversation for anyone who has an interest, so we encourage you to be here.
A pretty large contingent has been following this rezoning. Right? Other than
Well, we're going to,
Not specifically with a letter. We can certainly spread the word so people are here. Now, if the plan substantively changes, substantially changes, probably a better word, there would be another hearing that would be required. So at that point, everybody would be notified within the, or actually per the ordinance requirements. So there'd be an advertisement in the newspaper. At this point, I think the applicant's just hoping to get some feedback since we haven't talked about it in quite some time.
I'm expecting that their counsel would be here too. That might be a wrong assumption, but how about we let since there were counsel on both sides of this issue, let's make sure that we tell all counsel that was involved.
Understood.
I think their thinking is they heard from the people, they heard from those attorneys, they want to hear from the commissioners, they want to hear from staff. So, but we'll definitely spread the word, so if anybody wants to come, they can.
All right, great. Okay, Aaron, anything else under?
That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, solicitor's report?
All is well.
That's great. Citizens' comments? Any citizens' comments? Yes, Bill?
Yeah, sure. Sure, yeah, Mr. Forst, sure. The commissioners are certainly aware of the project. PP&L has notified us quite some time ago about replacing several of the lines throughout the township. It has been brought to my attention by Mr. Forst and others in that area that they would ideally like to see a different route taken for these lines. So we've discussed that. I've requested a meeting with PP&L, and I'm hoping we can bring in the project manager as well as some of the stakeholders locally and do what we can to influence the process, but just making everyone aware that PP&L does not have to necessarily listen to us, and Hatfield has no authority over this project or utilities in general. However, be happy to speak on behalf of some of the residents and make sure the residents are even invited to the meeting if PP&L would agree to meet. They've been very cooperative throughout, and I see no reason for them to decide not to meet. But I have not heard back, and so hopefully I'll be able to facilitate a meeting, and we'll see if we can maybe get a change in the route of this project.
All right, any other citizens' comments?
One, I was approached by someone recently about blasting Walnut Street. Aaron, can you fill in the details for that, please?
Yeah, sure. So there is blasting that will be occurring over the next several months in conjunction with some of the utility lines being installed for the townhome project on 309, which we call Firefox, but which is, I think the marketing name is Walnut Meadow, Walnut Creek. Thank you. It's hard to keep up with these developers' names, but Walnut Creek on 309, which this portion of the project is actually located in Montgomery Township, but all residents within a certain range have been notified via letter regarding the blasting. From what I understand, the consultant doing the blasting will also be paying for an assessment of all those properties to make sure there's no damage done. So those residents have all been notified, and if anyone else maybe is outside of that range, hears anything or sees any damage, they can certainly contact the township and we will facilitate. But the next phase, which comes to Hatfield, there's 33 units in Hatfield Township in the next phase. If the blasting is required at that point, we haven't heard yet, but if it is, the same notification requirements will be in place, and similar letters will be sent out to those that are in that range as well.
Thank you.
So that will begin soon, so if you hear something, but if anything seems out of the ordinary, please reach out to the township building.
All right. Anything else? Seeing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Hughes, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, we are adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks.